That's what I had
We're
on.
live now.
That's all right. Everybody can learn about our sweaters and slippers. All right, everybody ready to roll?
Ready?
Okay. Welcome to the Monday, May 23rd meeting of the City Ferndale Council. I call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock p.m. 7 o'clock. All right. I've been starting the meetings with some mindfulness moments, so I invite you to settle back in your chair, get comfortable, and we are just going to get our attention focused and fully arrive and ready for this community meeting. So please close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, or just keep your eyes open and look downward in a soft gaze. Bring attention to how you are sitting. Find a way to be relaxed and alert. Please bring attention to your breath. Start taking some deeper breaths. We'll take 3 big inhales. Inhale. Inhale. Exhale. Exhale. So shake out your Monday stress or the Monday blues, and give yourself permission to let go of this day and come present into this meeting space. So I'm just very thankful that people are aware and involved in their local government and participating in our city council meeting where we conduct our business. So let's be thoughtful and curious and compassionate as we open up and discuss our city business tonight. Thank you. And let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Oh no, I've been saying Madam Clerk for 12 and a half years. Almost.
Continue if you like.
City Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem James.
Here.
Councilmember Leaks May.
Here.
Councilmember Mikulski.
Here.
Councilmember Polika.
Here.
Mayor Piana.
Here. Next is the approval of the agenda, and we have one change tonight.
I would like to, I move to approve the agenda with the following additions. Item 7C, to meet in closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268E to consult with its attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with specific pending litigation in the matter of Gibson et al. Versus City of Ferndale et al. And 7D, consideration of proposed settlement agreement in the matter of Gibson et al. Versus City of Ferndale et al.
Support.
I have a point of clarification. Are we able to address those matters after call to council, which is technically number 8?
Or do we?
Through the chair, Councilwoman, you could do that. Reason for the proposal to locate it there is because after the closed session, the public will be able to come back into the council chambers for the ability to view council as in its deliberations regarding the final proposed new 7D.
I see. Thank you for the clarification.
So this was moved by Polika and supported by Leaks May. This is an unusual change that we haven't done before, but we have some legal timeline that we're trying to meet, and so that's what we're going to do tonight at on 7C and D. All right, roll call, or a vote call, please.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Tiana.
Yes. All right, next is presentations. And our first presentation, and we have two tonight, and the first presentation is 4A, Annual Update of Affirmations, LGBTQ and Community Center by Executive Director David Garcia. Come on down. You're the next and first contestant.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I thought I would show you all the youth new design pride shirt.
I love that.
Oh, nice.
My first day, I just got it today. So I'm really proud of our youth, and they do a great job. In fact, our youth cohort this year is the largest ever in the history of Affirmations. So that's important work. Our SKK group, our senior group, continues to be the largest group that meets at Affirmations. They have gotten so large since I've been back from Los Angeles. Not only did we have to knock a wall downstairs in the lower level, but they are also meeting on an additional day at the Royal Oak Senior Center for their expansion. Since I've been back 3 years ago this month, God, it seems like 30, Affirmations has been in the black every single year. We are almost to 2 million now. To give you some perspective, when I got back to Affirmations, we had 3 employees, and we have 17 now. The largest expansion is in our mental health program. We have always had a significant program working with universities for their graduate level students to see our community on a sliding scale. But that had its downfalls. We couldn't see acute cases, they couldn't see youth, and they were gone in 4 or 5 months. We have now hired our 3rd full-time licensed therapist on payroll at Affirmations, and we are looking to hire our 4th because we still have a waiting list, even with that 3rd hire. It tells you the significance of COVID and what that has done for mental health for our constituency. We've even hired a full-time kind of 360 health navigator at Affirmations, Brendan, who started just a few weeks ago. I think Affirmations has done a poor job in the past of helping people that walk in through our doors assess a 360 view of what they're coming in for. They might be coming in for AA, which meets every single day at Affirmations and has for many years. But no one's asking them, are you HIV positive? Are you experiencing homelessness? Are you a senior? Do you need health care? And how can we help you get onto health care? So to finally have someone full-time on staff that can really get a full picture of a person's needs, not just the presenting problem when they come through our doors, is imperative. Because once they walk back out that door, we might not see them again. And so to have that individual on staff is important. Affirmations, as you know, many of you know, is also doing many vaccinations in our building. The next one's coming up in just a couple of weeks. We've done many. We are working with community partners, like the Hometown Restaurant Group, to do fundraisers. And let me tell you, Hometown Restaurant Group has done a great job for us since I've been back at the center. And we have another restaurant night coming up. If I can remember the date, I'm getting old. That date, and by the way, these are at One-Eyed Betty's, Pop's Italian, Public House, and that is coming up very soon as well. The vaccination dates, by the way, coming up are the 8th, 10th, 29th of June, and Hometown Restaurant Group, the next one is coming up on June 7th, anytime after 4 o'clock at Pop's for Italian, One-Eyed Betty's, or Public House. Those are great community partnerships, and they're important. When I got back from Los Angeles, I was concerned about our community center, that it might not make it, and this is a 30-plus year organization. I was just in Los Angeles. I landed back home Saturday night for the Executive Director Institute. It's about 30 executive directors of some of the largest centers around the country. We are lucky to have Affirmations. We are lucky that we own that building. It is mortgage-free. We paid off the mortgage the last time I was here. And while there was some financial difficulties the 5 years I was in LA, I'm happy to say that that mortgage is still paid off. That's a 17,000 beautiful square foot building in the heart of our city. I'm on the board of directors of Centerlink, the National LGBTQ Community Centers Network, of which there are over 300 LGBT community centers across this country. Most are only volunteer-led. Most do not own their buildings. So what we have here in the heart of our city is a jewel, and it's important. And the work that we do there, not just the life-saving work to serve the trans community, for example, and gender name change clinics, not just people coming in to see a therapist when they might be contemplating suicide or under the immense pressures of being LGBTQ in this country, but to have fun once in a while. We just had our wine party, which some of you were here for. That is a great event, and we had a great time, and there were over 250 people came to the wine party. But you know, it was free food and wine, so that's why there was 250 people there. Speaking of, during Pride, Ferndale Pride, from 3 to 6, up on the sky deck, which I think is the only sky deck on 9 Mile, so it's a really good view of Ferndale Pride. From 3 to 6, Pop's Italian is catering the food. We've got a lot of leftover wine from the wine party and some beer, and it's free for community members to come up, as long as you're 21 and over, to come up and celebrate Pride at the community center. As you know, the Ringwald Theater is now also at Affirmations. Theater is very important to our community and to this city. And when they lost their space, I have always been determined to have a theater at Affirmations, and they're doing really well. They have sold out many shows already. And when they're dark, we can have one-woman shows or comedy shows or talkbacks with the community. It's a great space for Affirmations. The Metropolitan Community Church of Detroit, which has been serving progressive Christians, and it's a progressive Christian denomination, now meets at Affirmations every Sunday. And I think they're coming up on their 50-year anniversary in just a month or two. So it has always been my goal since I've been back from Los Angeles to create a vibrant community center. And while, for example, I am an atheist, proud atheist myself, this is the community's building. And as long as you are pro-LGBTQ, this is your building too. And whether that is city council coming over for a meeting over there or coming to the wine party, as I saw some of you there, or whatever the circumstance, this is the community's home. And we should all take a lot of pride in that, because it is unusual. And I know that I'm proud of it. And for however long I remain around here, I'm going to do my best to make you proud as city council, but even more importantly, the entire community proud. So those are some highlights. I just want you to know that financially we are very strong right now and growing significantly. We may even be expanding outside of this one building. So more to come on all of that, but I want to thank you for your support and generosity and our partnership. I'm friends with many of you on this council and in this room. And thank you for everything you've done, because you know, we just had the fire department in for an emergency plan, because we've never really talked about what happens if there's a fire at Affirmations. How do we get everybody out? Who's checking what rooms? What about our staff member who's in a wheelchair? The department has been there for us when we get threats, and we get a lot of threats. You've been there to protect the front of our buildings. The FBI has been there to do significant amount of active shooter drills. We have silent alarms throughout Affirmations because we get threats all the time, and we see hate crimes are up. We see all over this country racist, homophobic, xenophobic attacks on community centers. So we all have a responsibility to protect Affirmations and to protect people that walk through those doors, because we see how crazy things are getting. And I've always felt that you have our back to keep us safe. So thank you for that.
Thank you, David, for being here. We're very, sure, go ahead.
Mr. Garcia, you didn't mention how we could get one of those awesome shirts. All right.
Be at sale at Affirmations during.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is 4B, which is the presentation on recommended changes to the Ferndale Social District Management and Maintenance Plan.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Lena Stevens. I'm the Director of the Downtown Development Authority. As you'll hear, I'm in the process of healing and having allergies, so you get these dulcet tones for 2 presentations tonight. In that vein, if anything needs clarification, please don't hesitate to interrupt me and ask. In fact, I would welcome that while I sort of put the pieces of my brain back together again. So tonight I'm here to give a quick update about the social district and foster a conversation with you to get some feedback. I wanted to do this before bringing forward an actual proposal for changes to our maintenance, management, and operations plan so that your feedback could be included before I do that. Really quickly, for the uninitiated, our program is called Patio Zones, which stands for Pay and Take It Outside. We have our former team member, Lindsay Gunzarek, to thank for that Easter egg. We launched it in spring 2021, and I think it's important to remember where we were when we were considering putting this program together. It was early days of the vaccine. We were nervous. We weren't sure if it was the right thing to do, if it was helpful, it was going to be beneficial, if it was going to be harmful. And so we had a lot of caution in our mind when we were putting this together, and I think that was appropriate at the time. It is managed by the DDA. So primarily I manage it, I keep staff informed, I get feedback from staff as necessary, and do my best to keep everybody kind of in the loop. It operates Thursday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. It closes automatically during events, and that was in accordance with the law as it was originally stated. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Social district permits are actually issued by the state with local government support. So you might remember at your last meeting on consent agenda, there was a resolution to support Mezcal because they've moved in and they want to participate, but the state requires that resolution from y'all before they would process that permit. We have had no issues reported to the DDA from the police department or from the public works department related to litter. I check in pretty regularly. The only discussion the police department did have to have with the patron once was during an event when it was one of our first closures of the district. And after explanation, they accepted it and it wasn't a problem, so it didn't escalate. The website, as well as posters, have these maps, so these demonstrate where you can go and where you can't go. We try to use as much visual language as well as actual written language to explain. But essentially, you can go on sidewalks, you can go in alleys, you can go in Schiffer Park, you cannot go on private property, you cannot go in parking lots, and you cannot go in the pop-up park, which is the little X that's right there, because that is private property. How's it going? We have 22 approved social district permits, with 20 of those businesses actually serving, and you can see the full list in the west and the east zone. We have 4 pending permits with the state. What we've learned is that if a business has any unadjudicated violations, we don't really know their inner workings, but if it's a violation that they need to consider first, they put the social district permit on hold until that's adjudicated, and they have a fairly significant backlog from what we understand. So some of these have been pending for a while. It was a great tool for marketing. It was a wonderful hook for the downtown Ferndale channels and for any of the businesses that leaned into it. Some leaned into it a little bit more than others. It's potentially underperforming as a revenue driver, but overall businesses are pretty satisfied with it. So they're happy it's here, but they think it could be better. And we've seen some collaboration, excuse me, between retail businesses and our restaurant partners. Are there any questions about participation and how that's going right now? We've got a lot. We've got a lot of folks. It's pretty cool. These are just some examples so you can kind of see how it's played out on social media. Anita's Kitchen did a great layout when they first announced Modern Natural Baby. We gave them both posters of either accept drinks or not, so they did a little poll on their stories. And then even in the wintertime, our social media manager was posting about it, and you can see some funny comments there like, are there crews that will go around to melt butts frozen to the benches? So, you know, we were getting funny engagement and things like that, which we always love to see, anything where we're engaging with people. The primary feedback that we've gotten from businesses falls into 3 categories. 1, combine the east and west zone into one single zone. 2, allow the patio zones to stay open during events. And 3, expand the hours of operation. When we surveyed our businesses in April of this year, because that feedback was primarily based on just what I know, what they've told me, when they email me, when they talk to me, we did this survey. Of our 20 active participants, 11 responded. And this generally fits with what I've heard. People are like, yeah, we like it, or we're cool with it, and maybe one person is like, you know. So, and that's about right. That's good. Some people like it, some people are lukewarm. When we asked them to estimate the value currently as a revenue or sales driver, we got an answer of 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. When we said, could you estimate for us if you were allowed to stay open during an event, what you think would be the score? And it went up to 8. Anecdotally, Matt from Bobcat Bonnie's in one of his other locations, he had experience with that where they didn't allow an event that typically would have had alcohol to sell alcohol. It was, I think, an arts festival. It might have been Wyandotte. He was allowed to sell, and he did fantastic that weekend. So he's been asking about this for a while now. Then along came some changes to the law. So Public Act 124 in 2020 was the original enabling legislation. Public Act 27 of 2022, which was signed in March, amended that law, and it basically made 4 changes. It's a very simple law, so you can read it in all of about 5 minutes. The sunset is gone. So originally, this was all going to sunset on January 1 of 2025. That was just struck. So this is now a permanent feature as far as state legislation goes. Districts can now remain open during special events, provided that drinks don't cross. So an event drink can't come out into the social district, and a social district drink can't go into the event. It clarified that local governments have the ability to set hours. That we always have been, so it didn't really relate, but it's good that they clarified it. And drinks may be taken into hotels, which again, sadly, does not apply to us. I wish we had a hotel, but for now we don't, but that was in the law. So, I essentially tonight would like to ask you 4 questions. And the first starts with, are we comfortable with social districts as a permanent fixture? Because when we talked about this, when we put ourselves back in spring of 2021, when we were talking about it, it was let's try it out. And now we are looking at it being more permanent. And if it's more permanent, I think we need to talk about what sort of feedback loops we want to institutionalize. So if it's no longer Lena Stevens in the driver's seat, if I move on, if somebody else moves on and steps in, what do we want to have written in our management plan that says you will do this every year, you will survey the businesses, you will talk to council, those kinds of things. And then the other question I have is, how satisfied are you with the DDA management, or are there things you would change? Because as a professional, I can't change things that I don't know about, so feedback would be good. So that's question number 1. And I will take a breath and get some water and open up the floor to see how people feel about social districts as a permanent feature.
I'll open up to council.
I think it's been very successful. I'm sorry, through the chair. I think it's been very successful, and I'm very supportive of making them permanent.
Okay, good to know.
Through the chair, yeah, I don't have much specific feedback other than everything that I hear. Sounds like it's, the fears and complaints have not come to fruition. So I see no reason not to extend it.
Good.
Through the chair, I'm a supporter. That's it.
Awesome.
Through the chair, I am as well. It seems like it's been quite successful. I'll admit I was probably the most skeptical on council about whether or not this would work. And so I was glad to be proven otherwise, and I am a supporter too. I think for feedback loops, you know, for me, it's, you know, police incidences and trash. I do see people walking around outside with their cups, but I do, you know, they tell me it's something else, and it looks like something else, other than a beer or anything like that. So, but it's one or two incidences where that's happening, and it's not enough to, I think, change this policy and program.
Okay. Has everybody actually gotten one? Actually gotten a drink? You've done it? I haven't done it in a while, so.
Well, it's
I'm
been,
wondering.
I don't know, a couple months.
Yeah. It's fun, right? It still kind of feels like you're doing something illegal. I feel that way. When I get one, like I still kind of, even though I like literally helped you through the
Unless
process.
you've been to New Orleans.
I was going to
then
say,
it's normal.
unless you've been to New Orleans, yeah.
I've never been, which is
Okay,
why I'm
so
skeptic.
the second question is, should we combine the east and west zone? This is supported by myself. This is supported by Police Chief Emmy. I believe that streamlining the rules helps with communication. I think it could enhance some of the retail restaurant collaboration opportunities because we actually do have more retail and maybe more experiential type businesses on the west side. And it's one of the main things that our east side businesses have said. Even though now we actually have a fair few participants on the east side, they really want people to be able to cross over. And in my opinion, if someone drinks a drink really fast, throws it away and crosses versus crosses with it, their intoxication level does not change. So to me, doing this probably really doesn't have an impact on how they are going to be, what level of intoxication they are going to be at. So I think that what this stands to do is actually help us with some of the enforcement, because when things get confusing, wait, can I go here, can I go here, that's when we see people making mistakes. When we can be really clear, you can go anywhere in this zone, it helps us with enforcement, and it does actually help people comply with the rules better. And like I said, we haven't had any issues with this, and I don't expect that this would change too much, but I know that this was a pretty central issue for us, so I wanted to talk about this very specifically before I brought forward any proposal on it.
So if I may through the chair, so then what this looks like is that maybe the supplies of the cups are the same, just period. So
Correct.
that's, you're able to cut down on that as far as.
The cups are always the same. The stickers we color code, the signage is color coded, the signage has to be there in the median and things like that. So it would simplify some of the structural programmatic elements for sure. Mayor, I could keep going. If there's no particular feedback, I could just keep rocking through the questions and then we can kind of address them all together. How about we do that?
Yeah, through
All
the,
right.
sorry,
Oh,
through
no.
the chair. So I agree with you about well, I kind of agree with you. I actually think it's better to have it all in one zone, because if you're walking with a group of friends and you get to Woodward 9 Mile and we all want to cross, you down that drink, and whereas you could have, you know, if you had half a drink, you could finish it much longer instead of going across the street and then getting another drink. So it may actually force you to drink more, in my opinion. So I actually like the idea of one complete zone.
And I think my opinion on it would probably be different if we'd had issues, but we haven't had it. I mean, we haven't had issues with people being problematic. I think some of that is because of our hours. We stop it at 10 p.m., and I think that really helps us avoid kind of the party crowd. That makes me feel pretty old saying party crowd, but you know what I mean. And so I think we've done really well so far, and I feel confident that people will, you know, will handle themselves appropriately. So the other question, the third question is, should we allow it to remain open during events? So as I said before, could a patio zone go into an event? Nope. Could an event drink come into the patio zone? Also no. So if we allow this, which again, I think we should, it would create a revenue opportunity for local businesses. Events are always a double-edged sword. They bring people here, they get eyes on Ferndale. It's wonderful in many, many ways. But there are hardships that come along with road closures, with parking lot closures, with rerouting traffic and things like that. And so I think one of the things we can do is, if this is an opportunity for some of these businesses who are here, 365 days a year, can make a little bit of extra money, I think we should allow them to do that. I think we should be cognizant that it will add responsibility to event coordinators. They will have to make sure that there is somebody staffing entrances and exits to say, nope, you can't bring that drink in here, or nope, you can't take that drink out. But I think we weigh that against the value, and that this is one of the primary things our participants have been asking for over the course of the last year. And again, I do think it would reduce confusion, because one of the only times we had any issues was when we were periodically closing and reopening and closing and reopening, or closing one side or closing both sides. And whenever we do that, that creates confusion, and then people don't know how to comply, and we have problems. So I think I was supportive of us handling the request from Pride, so I think we could always keep something in there allowing a event to ask, and we could always make that determination. So I don't necessarily think we'd have to say it has to happen and there's no out. I think we could allow a runway to say, if you want to ask for closure, we will consider it. But I think we should also have the opportunity locally to leave them on if we want to.
Through the chair, can I just seek some clarification on how this works when you have a participating restaurant or bar that's essentially within the footprint of an event? Like, how does that work?
That's, I have to look that up. I have to think about that. That's a fantastic question. That's why I wanted to do this conversation. That's
Through the chair, I agree, Councilwoman. My concern has always been with Pride. We've made it a dry event for a specific reason, and we've also really tried to promote the bars and restaurants in the downtown, and that's why we've never had the event has never had a beer garden. But you're correct in that, for example, Soho or 215 or Bobcat Bonnie's, who are sponsors of Pride, and they're right there on 9 Mile, it's very difficult to stop those people from being able to bring that drink out if they're allowed to go out the back door but not the front door. Also, it really puts a huge burden on the organizations trying to get volunteers, because that's what Ferndale Pride is. It's a bunch of volunteers coming together, and we struggle every year trying to get volunteers to do the tasks today. So I would really prefer if we could allow the organization or the event to decide if they want to be a dry event or participate in the patio zone for that day or 2-day event, however long the event is.
Good feedback.
And maybe through the chair, just needed just a point of clarity. So I'm looking at the note here that says that the event coordinators monitor exit and entrances. So also, would that be the businesses? They would have to appoint somebody to monitor as well? Because, I mean, if you have a drink outside in the patio zone, but you go into the restaurant, somebody's going to monitor somebody walking in with, the different color cup, or somebody coming out of the restaurant, going out into the patio zone with, I don't know what it looks like.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to understand the question fully.
Yeah.
I do think there could be a role for the businesses in helping to enforce it. So when they serve the drink during an event, it might help if they say, just be aware, you can't go take this into that event. So I think, yes, they probably would bear a little bit of responsibility, which I think they would gladly accept for the chance to make the extra money. It's always been the case that you couldn't take a drink from one patio zone participant into another, so they're already used to that. So they would already say, no, you can't bring a Jay's penalty box drink into here because that's a different thing. So they're already used to that part, but I think we probably would be working with them to say, during events, we are going to ask you to educate your staff so that they can help us with this.
Through the chair. For example, during Pride, it gets crazy, and those businesses are packed. I don't know if necessarily the bartenders are going to have enough time to say, oh, okay, you're not going to be able to take this drink, and instruct the person they're giving a drink to. They're making drinks, handing them off, taking cash, and getting on to the next person. That's been my experience. I don't know if you're going to, you can train staff, but I don't know how well that's going to go over.
Right, well, I think that's a big area for you to think
Yep.
about with
That's a lot of good
the
feedback.
DDA board.
And then the final question is expanding Monday through Sunday. So basically adding Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to the roster. I think that's almost a no-brainer. The hours work very, very well so far, and Monday through Wednesday are slow days, so I don't expect that would add any issues. And again, I think the more we provide clarity, the easier it is for people to comply with our rules. So that's the last change, and I wanted to make sure that I'm seeing some nodding heads, so I'm thinking that I'm in the right pathway there. Okay. So that's really it for this presentation. If there's any other general feedback, I'd love to hear it, but I think the place that it sounds like I have the most research to do before I come back to y'all is related to events and how we would either allow events to have an option to request closure, and then if it's going to be open, what is going to be the requirement of the participating businesses versus the event. That's what I'm hearing today. Excellent.
All right.
Okay, well, thank
you,
you so
Lena.
much. I want to thank you for the faith that you've shown in our businesses and in myself to manage this program. I know there were concerns about it, and I think it's worked out very well. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Right. Thanks, Lena.
You're welcome.
All right, we are moving on to the next section in the agenda, which is call to audience. We set aside 30-minute period for people to speak on any topic, and if there's 30 minutes or more is required, we can put them on at the end of the regular agenda items, which tonight would be longer because we have a closed session as our last item. Every person who wishes to speak may do so for 3 minutes. We have a stop clock over there on the wall to help monitor time. And we are also a community dedicated to inclusivity and diversity and respect. And we have an official commitment to anti-racism. So respectful and courteous behavior during public meetings support these values and allow neighbors across all spectrums of beliefs and viewpoints to share their thoughts in a supported environment is what we support and welcome. So there might be some folks who might be attending their first public meeting tonight and may feel a little uncomfortable public speaking, and their voices deserve to be heard, and we create a welcoming space for people who may not feel comfortable about publicly speaking. And then finally, we do have discourse with dignity guidelines. Abusive language, threats, bullying, and personal attacks are discouraged. It's really hard to get to the root of an issue if the content is buried within disruptive or harmful behavior. And for productive conversation, comments should address issues and not people. And please address the city council, myself, rather than the staff, as staff take policy and direction from council. With that, we are ready to go. Come on up. First one. And Riley, are you managing the time clock? Who is up?
Can't seem to get it to work.
Can't seem to get her.
So I got
All
my
right.
phone ready.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening, City Council, councilmen, members, and Mayor. My name is Stephen Lemlin. I'm from the Ferndale Memorial Association. We're at that time of year again where we're having the Memorial Day Parade. We invite everyone here, please, to come out. It'll be 10 o'clock on Monday the 30th. This will be our 104th year doing it. We still hold the record of longest continuous Memorial Day celebration of any city in Michigan, so we hold a small record here. I'd like to also put a thank you out to the community and to specific members, the Garden Club, other Ferndale Association members, the DPW, Michael, everyone came out this weekend. It was our largest cleanup ever, and we got it done in record time, so thank you, Ferndale, all of you, for doing this. And one small question from my other hat is the VFW. And the VFW had one question from the president of the VFW. Is there any rule that we have to follow in giving out poppies? It's a tradition in the VFW. We give out poppies for donations. We've never had to do anything for it, but he's a new commander and said, Steve, could you go down and just ask the city council if it's okay if we give out free flowers?
I think it's pretty okay to give out free flowers.
Okay, we just didn't want to make the city upset, you know. But that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
And we'd like to see you all on Memorial Day. Thank you very much.
I'll be there. Thank you. Good evening, Jeannie. Welcome.
Jeannie Davis, president of the Ferndale Senior Group, and I'm here to talk about two things. I'll talk about the parade first. For over 20 years, the Ferndale seniors have not gone in the Memorial Day Parade, but we will be going in the Memorial Day Parade this year. And I'm putting out a call to all Ferndale seniors, whether you're members of our Ferndale Senior Group or not. If you want to come and join us and make a statement that you're old, but you can still get out there, please join us. Show up at the Ferndale Kulik Center at 9 a.m., or 8:45 probably be better. If you're really brave, show up at 8 o'clock and help us decorate the bus. We will have the bus for use, and you don't have to walk the entire way. You don't have to ride the entire way. You can sit on the bus, and we're giving you flags to wave out the window and be like the Queen, or walk a little ways and the bus will stop and let you get back on. So please join us. You know, we want to make this first time in 20 years memorable. The other thing I want to talk about is I want to thank Joe and I want to thank Ed Klobuchar from Hazel Park. They've given me a great idea. And we're very grateful to the city of Hazel Park for allowing us to meet in their building. And they've given us everything we've needed, just cheerfully and happily, and we feel we owe them a debt of gratitude. And I was fortunate enough to meet with Joe and Ed, and they are going to help us reach out to the Hazel Park seniors and invite them to join us and become part of our Ferndale Senior Group. We've changed our membership fee structure so they will pay the same as us, and that's something that's been a long time coming. So, but Ed and Joe have promised us all kinds of help to get this ball rolling. We're going to appeal to them through brochures that we'll be mailing out, of course, Facebook, you know, council meetings. I'll be attending the Hazel Park Council meeting and making the same announcement and inviting them. So we feel it's our way of paying back and enriching everybody's experience. The more people we have in the group, the more, you know, they're going to integrate with other people. So, and again, I want to thank you. It was a great idea. So, and if anybody has any questions, can I give out my phone number? Or just leave it on the wall at Como's in the men's room, like always.
That's a great one. That was a good one, Jeannie.
I really need a filter, don't I? It's 248-541-5888. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. Hi there. Welcome.
Hi. Guess I can bend down a little. Good evening, councilmen and women. I want to begin by saying every person is unique and should be treated with love and respect. Dignity exists and must be acknowledged for every human being, from the moment of conception through natural death. I am here today to speak against the raising of the pride flag on June 1st. As a clinical psychologist, I find the elevation of certain behaviors harmful and inappropriate. By raising this flag, you are celebrating a pattern of behavior that has been linked to multiple poor mental and physical health outcomes. For example, regarding physical health, studies from Denmark and Norway show a reduction of 24 years in the lifespan of homosexual couples. This decreased lifespan is also being seen in the United States. Regarding mental health, in LGBTQ people ages 10 to 24, suicide is a leading cause of death. Specifically, studies have shown that as much as 7.27% of suicides were among those identifying as gay. You may be tempted to say that this higher rate of suicide and lower life expectancy is due to discrimination. However, Denmark and Norway are two countries that have a longer history of LGBT acceptance, yet the rates are the same. Also, if you look at the rate of suicide among Black people, during the time of Jim Crow, you will see that in 1960, the rate of suicide among Black people was 0.0039%, according to the CDC. It would be hard to argue that homosexual people face more discrimination now than a Black person during the time of Jim Crow. This points to the likelihood of an underlying condition fueling the harmful behavioral patterns of homosexuality. Even from this small bit of information I've provided, you can see homosexuality is not safe or beneficial for people, and therefore should not be advertised as such. Celebrating a pattern of behavior with this much risk for death and illness would be like raising a flag celebrating smoking. We would never want to promote such a dangerous behavior to the people of this community, so why are we promoting these behaviors? I also find it inappropriate to be celebrating behaviors that everyone does not ascribe to or approve of. The American flag and the Michigan state flag are understandable, as everyone here is an American and a resident of Michigan. However, everyone does not agree with the LGBTQ agenda. Due to the non-inclusive and harmful nature of what this flag represents, I am urging this council to do their job and keep this off city property. However, if you are not going to do so, then in the spirit of inclusivity, we as Catholic Christians should be able to fly a flag representing the month of June as the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Again, I'm asking you, do not raise this flag, or if you insist, allow our flag to be raised as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, councilmen and councilwomen.
Can people please state their name and what city you're from, so that's part of our
Nick
record?
from Ferndale. Recently, Ferndale allowed a group to pitch a request to fly the pride flag on the city's flagpoles. This is a resolution that annually is passed and will very likely occur again later tonight. In 2021 and 2022, according to a February 1st article on the city's website, the City Council unanimously passed a resolution to raise the Pan-African flag outside City Hall in honor of Black History Month. According to what I read, the initial request came from a Ferndale High School student who saw additional ways the city could offer more support and celebration to the Black community. Moving on from that, since the February draft opinion of the Supreme Court on Roe v. Wade was leaked less than a month ago, churches, pregnancy support organizations, Supreme Court justices, and people, all having some connection to Christianity, have been targeted with violence regarding their stance on the issue. As Dave mentioned earlier in his presentation, there's a lot of hatred out there, but he failed to mention one group that's been targeted recently, that of the Christian Catholics. Law-breaking, influential protests, according to Federal Law 18 U.S. Code 1503, outside of justices' homes have taken place. Protesters have barged into churches disrupting Mass, and churches and pregnancy support centers have been vandalized, defaced, and attacked. Yet very little has been done to offer up additional protections to these places or prosecute those guilty behind the attacks. Based on the rhetoric of many civil organizations, including our national government, it's implied that certain people and rights are considered worthy of greater honor and protection. There's a new kind of discrimination out there, and many leaders are turning a blind eye. If everyone is really seen as equal in dignity, those same in-place protections and lauded celebrations for the LGBT community should be in place for Christians as well. Ferndale claims to be a place of inclusivity and tolerance. City ordinances are in place to prevent discrimination. Yet only 2 additional flags are raised each year in support of 2 specific groups of people. On city property, those flags have a very visible and honorable location. If the pride flag won't be removed for reasons stated earlier, we are requesting an expedited resolution to be passed this evening to allow the raising of the Sacred Heart of Jesus flag on June 1st on the city's flagpoles above the pride flag. This flag, the meaning behind the flag, which will be discussed in depth by the next speaker, represents what love really is about. To close, I want to reference the recent decision by the Supreme Court on the Shurtleff versus Boston case. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Mr. Shurtleff and argued 9-0 that the city of Boston violated his First Amendment rights by rejecting his application to fly a Christian flag on one of the city's flagpoles. The city accepted the previous 284 requests. The precedent has now been set that if you allow flags other than the country to be flown,
3-minute mark. Thank
you
you.
cannot discriminate. Thank you.
Good evening, councilmen and councilwomen. Mike. So I'd like to start with an excerpt from an article by the late Father Don Miller. Sometimes words are cheap, especially words expressing love. Just watch a few hours of television or listen to a few CDs and count the number of times love is mentioned. How often did it refer to more than emotional feeling? How often did it include a sense of commitment and self-sacrifice? Or count the number of times that we say we love someone or some innate object such as chocolate. When Jesus says, "I love you," he backs it up with the sacrifice of his life. No cheap expression there. Only sincere words backed up with a life of living proof. That is real love. And this is what we as Catholics celebrate in the solemnity of the Sacred Heart. The human heart has long been a symbol of love. At one time it was viewed as a source of all human activity, intellectual and emotional. It has also metaphorically symbolized the center of things, such as the heart of a relationship or the heart of a city. It could also represent the character of a person, such as describing somebody as having a good heart. The examples can go on, but speaking then of Jesus' heart carries many varied meanings, all pointing to his very human condition through which his divine love flows. The heart is an apt symbol, but there is something more than a symbol at work here. There's the very real love that Jesus gave to the world, a love that wells up from both his divine as well as his human nature. Devotion to the Sacred Heart is grounded not just in a symbol, but in real love. Real love is an unselfish, loyal concern for another person, putting them above yourself. In other words, self-sacrificing. Love is not blind approval of whatever feels good to another person. The true symbol of love is the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which represents the ultimate self-sacrifice for all humankind, the most inclusive form of love possible, as Jesus wants all of us sinners to come to him. Jesus' Sacred Heart has been a symbol of love since St. John first laid his head on Jesus' chest at the Last Supper, and since biblical times, many saints such as St. Gertrude and St. Margaret Mary had revelations regarding the Sacred Heart of Jesus that gave the world reason to hope in his love and mercy. In 1856, the Catholic Church dedicated the month of June to celebrating the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and faithful all around the world have committed themselves to this devotion. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, approximately 25% of residents or households in Ferndale are Catholic, and approximately 2.9% of households identify as LGBTQ. So if you're going to ignore science behind the harmful behaviors and raise a pride flag on city property to include 2.9% of the population or households, I ask that you consider the 25% of your population or households, that have an official devotion dating back to 1856. And I do have a resolution here, if it's something that you would consider expediting.
I think you should keep it.
Thank you for your time.
My name is Anthony Mosheri. I live at 2746 Horton Street. I want to talk to you guys in regards to the property at 2736 Horton Street. It is a vacant lot that has been owned by the city, as far as I know, since the early 2000s. It used to be a part of my property long before I purchased it. I've been there for about 5 years now. And when I bought the house, it was not being maintained by the city. Since the 5 years I've been there, I have been cutting the grass, trimming the trees, taking care of it, just because nobody else does. Anytime I've contacted DPW about it, it takes months before someone comes out. I was in contact with someone a couple years ago, Colin, I can't remember his last name, he used to be the city inspector, I'm sure someone here knows who he is, about purchasing the property. We kind of ran around a bunch. Didn't go anywhere. He left, kind of got put on the back burner. I've been in contact with someone more recently about it. Kind of gave an informal offer to buy the property. as it's actually, if you look at it, it's entirely fenced in by my yard. Everyone assumes it's my yard, so the fact that it's not being taken care of kind of looks bad on me. It's overgrown, flooded, constantly kind of blocking the sidewalk. So I do maintain it, kind of to the best of my ability without putting too much money into it, because it seems like a waste. I was just informed the other day, after a few weeks of no contact from someone at the city, I won't mention any names, that they said they're just going to put it up for auction. I've been told before that it is not buildable. Now they're saying that it is. I know they say it meets the 40 feet requirement. When you measure out 40 feet, obviously roughly, not on a real survey, you end up about 2 feet from my house. So I'm trying to figure out how that's, a buildable lot. I'm told that when it was separated, the man who purchased it went to build on it, was told he could not build on it, stopped paying taxes, and that's why the city took it over years ago. They're saying now that it is still buildable, and they're just going to put it up for an auction. I just don't know where to go. I've kind of put an informal offer for the lot to take over it. I have plans, if I can obtain it, to redo it, make it nice, make it look like it should. So just looking for some advice kind of on where to go from here.
Well, I appreciate you coming here and letting us know. I'm going to elevate this to our city manager, and he can take over and look at your case. I know that there's some policies about cities, our city council has with disposing of real estate that the city owns, and the city manager can walk you through that.
Okay.
And I'm sorry you felt like you've been ping-pong back and forth, and so, but the city manager, Joe, will be able to take care of you. And if we get your number,
okay.
Joe, do you want to go down there and get it, or someone? Oh,
Thanks, Riley.
Riley can take it for you right there.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I just want to know, I don't know if I'm being unrealistic with my timeline expectations. I know things through government typically don't move quickly.
We've had a lot of changeover in staff in this past 6 months to 8 months, and so that could be a significant contributing factor, and I apologize for that. But we'll get to the root of this, and the city manager will work with you, and our lawyer here will look at any of the legal parameters on the property.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that something, I'm just wondering, will a survey be done before, like if this were to go to auction?
Through the chair, we're in the midst of due diligence on the property, and,
okay.
and as the mayor said, we've had several transitions in multiple departments, including economic development, which oversees our property inventory management policy. But right now, we're in the midst of doing diligence, which would confirm the buildability and zoning and other criteria that a typical property would be considered. Okay. So if you give your information with Riley, I'd be happy to have a follow-up with you tomorrow.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thanks for coming here. I'm sorry you had to spend time on Monday evening to come deal with this, but
No, that's all right.
We'll get a resolution for you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to make a public comment? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to the consent agenda, which I will read in its entirety, and council can say what they will. 6A, approval of the regular meeting minutes of May 9th, 2022. 6B, approval of the resolution to display the rainbow progress flag outside at Ferndale City Hall. 6C, approval of the resolution declaring June 22 as Gay Pride Month. 6D, approval of payment to Sion Grand Trunk Western in the amount of $9,310 for railroad crossing signal maintenance, with the expense to be charged to Major Streets Fund, Traffic Services, account number 202-476-775. 6E, consideration of the renewal of the Uniform Video Services Local Franchise Agreement with Comcast. 6F, approval of payment for renewal dues to the Michigan Municipal League in the amount of $9,192 from general account number 101-101-958. 6G, consideration of proposal from Gallup for employee engagement software as a service, an annual amount of $3,307.50. 6H, consideration approval for Granicus contract renewal with closed captioning. 6I, approval of water pump replacement for the generator at the Albany Pump Station by Cummings in the amount of $4,005.41. 6J, consideration of the purchase of AV envelopes and secrecy sleeves for the August and November elections from Printing Systems in the amount of $4,513.72 from the General Ledger account 101-262-900. And 6K, approval of the bills and payrolls is submitted by the City Manager's Office and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. What is the pleasure of council?
I move to approve the consent agenda as published and read. Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem James and supported by Mikulski. Mr. City Clerk.
James.
Yes.
Polsky.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. And that is approved unanimously, and I just wanted to say tonight that Ferndale City Council is very committed to our LGBTQ community, and wanted to express my support for everybody and for Ferndale Pride, and that I'm honored to raise the Ferndale flag in front of our City Hall, and we are appropriately following the Supreme Court guidelines that was mentioned tonight, and allowing City Council to be the gatekeepers of what flags go up on city property as government speech, and that is something that we are monitoring and have always monitored and made sure that we do appropriately with any flags. So with that, we're moving on to the regular agenda item of 7A, approval to adopt a resolution to move and establish polling locations.
Chair, if I may, the clerk's office is bringing this forward in hopes of removing a polling location, a precinct from the City Hall and combining it with the polling location and a precinct at the library. We're doing this because of accessibility checks we're doing right now for the state of Michigan. We feel that the library is more accessible than City Hall, and for security as well. We feel like it's a better move. I will have a report in the future about accessibility in all the polling locations.
Are there any questions from council on this? We had a presentation from former clerk Marnie telling us about the voting percentages and the need to consolidate, follow state law. Is there any questions from anybody regarding this? All right, well, this might be the quickest agenda item ever. We need a motion to proceed.
I move to approve moving the polling location out of City Hall to the Ferndale Area District Library and approve all precincts and polling locations as presented as submitted by the city clerk.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem James, and that was a tie, and I'm going with Councilman Mikulski for support.
James.
Yes.
Polsky.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right, and next up is 7C. Oh, sorry, this is technically, sorry,
B.
7B. The online is different from the one in front of me. Sorry, my problem. 7B is approval of letter of support for revitalization and placemaking, which is RAP program for West 9 Mile Streetscapes. And welcome back, Lena.
Thank you. So excited to be talking more. Again, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Lena Stevens, Executive Director of the Downtown Development Authority. I'm in front of you tonight to ask for support for a letter of support to a grant called Revitalization and Placemaking through the MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. If it helps anybody, I just got a text from Jordan Twardy, very excited about this. So he is still reading our agendas as a taxpayer. So now we know that, so you can rest easy.
We give a letter of support.
So, as I said, this is being administered by the MEDC using American Rescue Plan funding. The minimum grant is $500,000. The maximum is $1 million. I've gone back and forth on how to write this to be clear. It has a minimum match of 50% of the project's eligible cost. So if we ask for $1 million, we have to match $1 million at a minimum. The program goals include proactively addressing the negative economic impacts of the pandemic by investing in projects that promote population and tax revenue growth, and downtown vitality is specifically mentioned in the program overview. So I think the proposal that I'm going to bring forward tonight is well positioned to meet the program goals. The project that we are bringing forward, this is a collaborative decision between city staff and myself, that we feel this is the project that is best in line with the program goals and already has been decided it's something that has to get done. So we know this is something that we need to do, which is the West 9 Mile Streetscapes. And if you'll permit me, I'm just going to read a quick quote from the Dda Possibilities Plan. This is about recovery from the pandemic. As we look forward to economic recovery, a strategic approach to maintaining a walkable, inviting downtown has never been more critical. Outdoor activation is key. By creating spaces where people feel relaxed and welcome, they are more likely to support one of the many locally owned businesses in downtown. So sometimes I think, streetscaping can sound like, oh, just a nice thing that we do. It really is one of the main tools that we have in promoting economic development. If you think about the way the face of Livernois changed in the Avenue of Fashion when they did their streetscapes, it's a completely different feel, and it's going to change the future of that for decades. What we are proposing, as I said, it's the West 9 Mile Streetscapes. This is item number 512 in the Ferndale Capital Improvement Plan, so this has been identified. There's a difference between something being in the Capital Improvement Plan and actually being funded in the budget, but it's a recognition that this is an important project that we know needs to be done. The Possibilities Plan, Dda Possibilities Plan, also identifies several weaknesses and opportunities related to streetscape and alley design as priorities for the DDA. This section from Woodward to Planavon was streetscaped in 2000. And much of the infrastructure is failing. We're going to look at a few pictures. I know that you know this street. I know that I don't have to bore you with 50 million pictures, but I've got 4. So we're looking at, this is the road at Planavon and 9 Mile. This is right next to the beautiful new park that we've invested in, that we're going to be having movies in, that we're having concerts in this summer. We're really excited about, and this is what that intersection looks like. I think it's sometimes easy, you drive through there a lot, it's kind of easy to get kind of blind to it, but if you walk and look at your feet, you will see a lot of need. This is the intersection at Allen and West 9 Mile. On the left there, you can see curb damage, you can see pavers that are damaged, you can see trip hazards. This is near Rust Belt, so getting closer to Woodward. You can see where we've had to do patching. You can see where the pavers around that garden bed are kind of leaning backwards and need to be fixed. You can see broken pavers. And this is a really good example of where some of our trees are struggling to thrive. They are not in the best environment, and also the soil has now built up through years and years of adding mulch to where it's no longer at grade, so we need 6 to 8 inches of these pavers to actually contain the dirt. So we can no longer do like a typical, like a tree grate in this environment, because to remove that 8 inches and expose that trunk would most likely kill the tree or do significant damage to the tree. So we've got issues with not having proper environments. But it's not all bad. We have a lot of successes that we can build on. And some are little and some are big. So the Affirmations seating area, I was thinking about that tonight while Dave was talking. He was talking about the dangers they face. Each one of those planters has 3 bollards that go 24 inches down into the ground that would stop a vehicle. And nobody really knows that. We don't talk about it because it's not a nice thing to talk about. But that's part of this. Not only did we activate part of the sidewalk, we provided a service to what I do believe is a jewel with Affirmations. We've got Schiffer Park. Yes, it's small, but it's wonderful. I rarely drive by there without seeing somebody drinking a coffee or sitting down or chatting or doing something. It gets used. And we've also done a lot with alley activation and furniture replacement. We're waiting right now on 30 benches, I think, or 15 benches, 30 bike racks. I'm really investing a lot. The DDA board is investing a lot in replacing furniture, and that does a lot. Those Adirondack chairs and the picnic tables and things like that, it really gives people a place to congregate. So we've got successes. We've got things on West 9 Mile that we can build on. So I want to be clear about what this letter of support is asking of you tonight and what it's not asking of you. It's asking you to support a grant request for this stretch of West 9 Mile. And that is going to include streetscaping and road work in some capacity. We're still sort of working on the details, and we're going to get to the numbers here in a minute, so you'll see why. You're going to, in the letter, identify the need for the project and why it's important for pandemic recovery, outline that we have a history of working on a project like this, a successful history, and request $1 million in grant funding, which will create a minimum project budget of $2 million if approved. What I am not asking you tonight is to support or decide on the design. I did attach a preliminary possible design so that you could consider it in the agenda item. It was literally created, for the most part, to get us into the budget ballpark, I'll say, so that we knew what we would be dealing with. If we got this grant, and again, I'll talk about this in a moment, we will do a design process. And that design process would involve public comment, it would involve you considering it again, and it would involve the DDA board considering it. So I just want to be really clear what this letter is doing and what it isn't. So, match sources. If we're going to ask for $1 million, how are we going to match that? The first thing that I am committing to doing is before the June 3rd deadline, we're going to move up the DDA board, as I had to cancel it this month, and ask for us to use $650,000 of our fund balance towards this match requirement. We have currently about a $725,000 fund balance that was built up over time, over the course of the last 10 years. We've used it for Schiffer Park. We have used it for West Troy Streetscapes. We have used it for furniture replacement that was in dire need. And so this is a place, and we've talked about it with the board preliminarily, that if we feel that DDA can bring this into reality and we can make this grant happen, then this is a great way to spend that money that we've been saving for a decade, because West 9 Mile needs it. In talking with Dan Antos, the Public Works Director, the remaining $350,000 will come from the water fund for stormwater management related elements of the project and from the major streets fund. Now, it is likely that this road is going to need more than that from major roads, and they've been talking about that and thinking about that, but there's a lot of stuff in the blender right now with Woodward moves and the design and all that coming. We're waiting for some things to shake out to really know. So again, we know we can make this commitment, and we know we could do a lot with $2 million, and we want to try, and we think it's worth a try. If we get the grant, we would be able to seek out additional funds. What could this cost? I think that's the question that's probably on your minds. It's the question on my mind. For the purposes of the grant, we have to give them several options. We can't just say this is what we want. We have to say we've thought about other ways, other things that we could do. So when it came to streetscapes, we kind of did a small, medium, large. So what if we just patched? What if we did sort of like a few public space expansions and like a little bit more replacement, but not the full shebang? And then we did the complete streetscape overhaul. So we have option A, about $175,000, the middle, about $425,000, and full 1,728,000. Same thing for roads, where we estimated what if we just patch versus do a full full replacement, excuse me. And honestly, those numbers are closer together than I thought, and I think that speaks to how badly damaged the road is. So just doing the patch is $1,118,000. Doing the full replacement is $1,772,000. So it's really only like a $500,000 difference, which there's a lot of patching to do. So that's a lot of numbers. If we wanted to do everything we wanted, if I wanted to do the full shebang on the road, the full shebang on the streetscape, we are at $3.5 million right now. That is our estimate. Remembering that money does not go as far as it went even a year ago, and definitely not as far as it went 5 years ago. If we got this grant, we would have 2 million. So 3.5, we know we could have 2. Now, could we do a lot with 2? Absolutely. We could do a lot with 2, and it would be great, and it would be wonderful for downtown Ferndale. But can we look for other grants? Yes. Could we look to appropriate more local funding? Absolutely. But for today, we've got to take a swing at this grant, and then we got to keep working. Honestly, we will probably continue to look for grants regardless of if this one comes through, because this is not something that's going to be optional. It's urgent now, and it will be in an emergency in the not too distant future. So we know that it's been discussed long before I got here, and we know that it's important. So again, final design process. If we get this grant, we would initiate a design process. We would do public input, we would do input with the businesses, and there would be a final design. That could include bike lanes, it could include parklets, public art, more seating areas. There's a lot of things that could be on the table, and I think a lot of that is going to have to be balanced with how much money we have. If we have a $2 million budget, we're going to have to be a lot more conservative in what we do. If we can find other grants and we can find other resources, then heck yeah, we can start adding on the bells and whistles, and we can start really looking at what we could do differently. We have plans like Ferndale Moves. It's absolutely important to recognize the value and the public comment and the work that went into those plans. Again, we also have to recognize financial limitations. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to entertain those. You have a draft letter that was attached to the agenda item. And happy to answer any questions about that letter, about the program itself. And my email is also up there, so if anybody else has questions, you can feel free to email me.
Are there questions from council on this opportunity?
I do, but I need a minute. Sorry.
All right, well, I can
Go
kill
ahead.
time through the chair. Just kidding, I'm not killing time. You know, as a East Sider, I always feel compelled to inquire as to whether there was any consideration, to do any project, similar project on the east side, or whether there was, documented increased need on the west side. And can you just talk a little bit about whether or not that came into play?
So the proposed project area that I'm bringing forward tonight sits basically in the middle of 2 streetscapes that were done in the 2010s. So in 2013, this is from what I could find, so bear with me, it could be a year off in one direction or another, but from Planavon to Pinecrest was done in 2013 to narrow the road, to add streetscape elements, to aesthetically tie that section into downtown. And then in 2014, the east side was done. That was a resurfacing project, and at that same time, like the pedestrian islands were added, the curb, the ramps were updated, so you have the tactile plates, you have more of the spacing and things like that. The bike lanes were also striped onto the road. So for this purpose, no, we're not really looking at that. However, when it comes to furniture, and by furniture, I know that sounds like an odd term, but I'm talking about benches, I'm talking about bike racks, trash and recycling receptacles. We are absolutely looking at how we can make sure that there's a consistency on both sides. And I know that the east side does need some attention. It needs more benches, it needs more bike racks, and you are going to start to see some of that this spring whenever our orders arrive. So for this purpose, because this project was done in about 10 to 15 years before those other 2, we're really not looking at those. The other thing is that with Woodward Moves, we'll probably get some, curb and gutter, and we'll get some updates that are really needed on the Woodward corridor, which will help the east side businesses as well. So that was actually asked in the DDA board meeting, so I've definitely been thinking about that. I think we're going to address it in other ways.
Through the chair. On your drawing, your rendering, you have public space expansion.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So again, I want to be very clear that this design was highly, highly preliminary and specifically done just to get us into a budget range that made sense. What that would be is if you think about, for example, think about where the rainbow crosswalk is, okay? And so how the sidewalk kind of comes out, and you have spaces where you can have benches, where you can seat. Red Hook has some seating right there and things like that. So that was, at some point, probably parking. And it got eliminated and it got incorporated into the sidewalk. So if you're talking about a public space expansion, that's exactly what it is. It's the elimination of parking where you would make that. Are these all going to happen? Absolutely not. It was really looking at what could be possible, knowing that we would kind of come down from there, or we would change the design entirely, but we had to have somewhere to start. So that's what it would be, is looking at spaces that we could expand for more pedestrian access, seating, things like that.
Several years ago, during the Memorial Parade, I was talking with then Mayor Coulter as we were walking down 9 Mile, and one of my comments was how bare 9 Mile looks. Like, if you look at other downtowns, you see, a lot of full-grown trees. Those trees that are on 9 Mile, they've been the same size for 20 years. They don't provide any shade, anything. And so I said, I'd really love to see, if we ever redid 9 Mile, I'd really love to see much bigger, mature growing trees. You can't plant them, mature, but, they can grow quickly. Mature, and more of them. So I says, I wouldn't be opposed to having, 6 or 8 parking spaces taken out to add more trees, so that it's more of a shady downtown than what we experience. So in that, you have my support. The other thing I thought of as you were talking about the funding and trying to reach the 3.5 million, is there opportunity that we can stage the development? So maybe we only get 2 million this year, but we do the work so that in the next 5 or 6 years, we might be able to get more funding, and then we can do that work at that time. And I'm not sure how that looks, but what I'd hate for us to do is just do it, do that, and then look back in 5 years saying, oh, we could have done this with this money, but we'd have to tear all of this up in order to do it.
Sure.
So I'd really like us to look at the project in that manner if we could.
And I think that's smart, and I think it's something that we could throw back to engineers who know much more about this than me during the design process. And it could be, it could be separating streetscape from road work. It could be a way, doing that. But you're right, because we wouldn't want to do a redesign and then say, oh, later I wish we had redesigned it this way, if phasing could have helped. It's a good note, and I'll make that.
And the final thing is, this time, we need to make sure that we add water to the flower beds, because that's what we didn't do the first time, and that's why we have to have DPW come out and water the flowers all the time.
Good note.
Me through the chair. Should this go in a way that, should this RAP proposal for the grant go in your favor tonight, may I ask that even though we're not doing the design process now, may I ask what that looks like and who will that include in the future?
I think it would look very similar to what we've done. We have a strong history in this community of engagement, so I think we would follow a process that you are very familiar with. So we would have public in-person meetings. We would very likely have something electronically available with some kind of survey. We are now initiating once-a-month meetings where businesses can come and get updates from DDA and from city staff, so we would include it in things like that. And honestly, we would probably do site visits. We would probably just have to do a lot of knocking on doors directly to talk to the businesses. And then for public engagement, because downtown doesn't just belong to the downtown businesses, again, I think we would follow a process that you're very comfortable with, and our staff are very good at this point. So, meetings, public discussions, public hearings, things like that.
Chair, are you entertaining comment or just questions at the moment?
I think it's just questions at the moment, but
I'm quite open to either, so that would be, that's up to you.
I'm all good.
I try not to deliberate unless
Yeah,
there's a motion on the floor, which is good city council management.
I can make a motion. I motion to approve the letter of support to the revitalization and placemaking RAP program for the West 9 Mile Streetscapes as submitted by the Downtown Development Authority Director.
Moved by Polika and supported by Mikulski. Open up for comment and
Through the chair, just one clarification I want to make for anyone who happens to be listening or watching at home, but not necessarily looking at the materials. I know there was some discussion about these are very preliminary, these are going to change, but even so, it contemplates the concept of potentially trading off some parking for sidewalk expansion. Just to be clear, even the preliminary proposal, we're talking about a couple of spots, not eliminating all street parking on 9 Mile. I just don't want anyone to freak out thinking that we're even contemplating taking it all out. I think this is great. We should go for it. It's an opportunity to make much needed improvements downtown. I hope that when we get to the public engagement part where we're contemplating, with more specificity, what might be improved. I agree with Councilmember Polika that shade, green spaces are a high priority. I wonder if there's a possibility, I think there's a drinking fountain at Schiffer Park, but I wonder when he mentioned water, if there's a possibility for having a drinking fountain and bottle refilling station, closer to the businesses downtown, closer to Woodward. And I had another fantastic idea that I've now talked so long that I forgot about it, but I'll tell you later.
so glad everybody.
Welcome to my world.
Right?
Through the chair, if I may add on to that, also, we have not approved any funding. So anybody that's worried that, all of a sudden we're spending a lot of money, this is just an approval for Lena to investigate further into this matter. No funds have been dedicated, but we need to be able to get, approval for Lena to spend some dedicated time to investigate the opportunities that are presenting themselves to us.
If I may add, this is the best time to go after infrastructure dollars, not only from the ARPA funds, which was pandemic support and relief, but also from the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And I'll talk to you offline about possibilities coming out from there that Ferndale is definitely eligible for, particularly the Safe Streets for All grant from the Federal Highway Administration, which we would be very competitively positioned if we applied. But I think, street repair is expensive, and everybody knows that 9 Mile, West 9 Mile, and this portion needs to be fixed, and so we're going to have to spend money on it. We're just trying to offset the cost of what we would owe with grants, and so this is a really a no-brainer. We're at 22 years? 23?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was around 2000, I believe, that it was redone.
So we're really at a point where we need to get this moved ahead, I think. My question for you was, how does this investment from the DDA impact your interest in working on the Withington alleyway? Because that was a project in your possibilities plan that you had elevated as a priority as well.
This would take precedent over that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we would, what's left of the fund balance would probably just need to be maintained as a rainy day fund, to have a few months of operating balance. So, yeah, this would take precedence over that, and that would have to be discussed with the board.
Okay, that is helpful to know.
Through the chair, I remembered my other brilliant idea. I love the sort of zero barrier concept that we have over on Troy. When
Street.
yeah, when the Broadway in the Burbs event was taking place, it made, you know, wandering around on foot much easier, less trip hazards, and it makes the streetscape much, much more versatile. I don't know whether that's a possibility on 9 Mile in whole or in part, but I think that's the future of cityscapes, is actually reducing those barriers and making it more versatile for all modes of traffic.
Yeah, I don't.
Throwing it out there as a concept.
Yeah, especially with stormwater management, I'm not sure. But it's also, it's incredibly validating to hear you say that, I'm sure, for people in this room who were part of that design process before I got here, but I also feel that same way. I think Troy Street has just a wonderful feel with that shared street, so, yeah.
And then finally, I would just add that we have a lot of comment and input already from residents regarding West 9 Mile through the Ferndale Moves Plan, about what works and what doesn't, as through the master land use plan, as well as the climate action plan. And it's my understanding this grant will be awarded after City Council approves the master plan and climate action plan. When would we find out about award announcements?
You know what, I don't have that handy. I'll have to
it was
email you with the decision timeline.
I thought it was September-ish, but I could be wrong. So
I don't want to answer. I don't know. I'll
we're
have to
in
email
this
you.
collection process already of feedback, and we're getting feedback on what to do with certain areas of our city, and West 9 Mile has been talked about in these processes with our boards and commissions now. So I think that is a great feeder into what other ideas need to be put into the public engagement process, because, you know, what we've heard already will be a foundation. We're not starting from scratch.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, all right, well, there's...
sorry, really quickly, as a note, the program guidelines say they will notify in summer of 2022, so it seems like their intent is to go pretty quick. If they can.
All right, but yeah, that could mean August 31st.
Fair enough.
So...
That's true.
That's the end of summer. So, all right, there's a motion on the floor. Anthony, City Clerk, Mr. City Clerk.
Polika.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Leaksmay.
Yes.
Mayor Piana.
Yes. All right, so that ends 7B, but we have 2 items that we added onto our regular agenda, which is an unusual add. They are to go into closed session to discuss legal matters regarding lawsuits. I don't have the motion in front of me because it was done on the fly. So the steps going forward, since this is unusual pause, All right, folks.
I motion to approve us going back in open session.
Support.
Moved by Polika, supported by Leaks May. City Clerk? Yes.
Yana.
Yes. Matter, and now we are going on to regular agenda item 7D, which is
I motion to approve the proposed settlement agreement in the matter of Gibson et al. Versus City of Ferndale et al.
Second.
moved by Polika, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem James. City Clerk?
Polika.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Yana.
Yes. All right, that concludes our regular agenda item, and we're moving on to call the council, starting with department updates led by our city manager. Joe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the chair, we'll begin with Parks and Recreation.
Good evening. So just a couple of quick updates from Parks and Recreation. This Saturday, we will have our first session of our Walk Ferndale program. We were supposed to take place last Saturday, but the sky opened up on us while we were trying to conduct it, so we had to postpone it. This Saturday, it'll take place at 10 a.m. at Wanda Park. We want to remind everybody that this is a program that's open to all members of the public, and anybody that participates in all 6 of the planned sessions will be entered into a drawing to receive a gift card from either Walking Lightly or Drifter Coffee. Also want to give a quick update on the splash pad. The underground utility work has been completed, and the seat wall has also been installed now. So the next steps will be installing the concrete, and then in the next coming weeks, you should see some of the water features starting to go up. So we're making good progress with that. Also want to announce the first session of our Movie in the Park series will be taking place on on June 16th at Schiffer Park. This first session will feature a showing of the Aretha Franklin movie, and we'll also have the rest of the 6 sessions that will be taking place over the summer posted on our Facebook page along with our city website. Crafternoons is a senior program that will have our seniors coming to the Detroit Curling Club starting tomorrow to engage in some craft activities. It's open. It is a senior program, but it is open to all members of the public. We just want to make sure that everybody is welcome there. It'll take place tomorrow and every Tuesday over the summer from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Detroit Curling Club at Martin Road Park. Gravity will return on June 13th this year. We want to make sure that that's on everybody's calendar. It's a free event that's open to the public that includes an art fair, a skate contest, and a bevy of family-friendly activities. It'll take place on June 13th at Gary Park from 11 to 7. June 11th? Oops. I'm sorry. June 11th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. At Gary Park. And there's a lot of stuff today. We also wanted to announce that the M1 Jazz Collective, which is a journey through the history of jazz music, will take place on June 15th at the Kulik Center at 6:30 p.m. It is free and open to the public. We ask that you bring out your chairs and your blankets and everything and come and enjoy some music on the lawn of the Kulik with us. And that is all from us. There's a lot, yeah.
Thank you.
Emmanuel. Next is Special Events Director Michael Larry.
Council. Just want to remind everybody that on Monday, May 30th for the Memorial Parade, that it actually starts on Livernois, going down to Maplehurst, south on Woodward to West 9 Mile, and then back to Livernois for the ceremonial remembrance of those we've lost in the past year that are veterans that have lived in Ferndale or were born and raised in Ferndale. And that starts at 10 a.m. So the best seat is actually on in downtown 9 Mile with all the sidewalk space there. You can really enjoy and appreciate the memory of those who have supported us, protected us, and stand up to those who are trying to fight against us. On Saturday, June 4th, is the Ferndale Pride, which will also take place on West 9 Mile from Woodward to Livernois from 12:30 to 10 p.m. The Clean the Ferndale Up is also on June 11th, and that will take place starting here at City Hall at 9 a.m., and from there we'll go to the different designated areas to do some cleanup. We work on that, and we do try to look for a particular resident that might need some help with some lawn cleanup. So we have already made that decision through the CED department, and so we're always looking forward to help someone who is in need of that support. As he said, Gravity Art Fair and Skate Park Contest is also on June 3rd at Geary Park. And then what did I say? Okay. That's June 11th, by the way. And then June 18th is the Juneteenth, which will take place at the Green Acres Park and Hazel Park, as we are co-partnering with the communities to produce that event this year. I just want to say that not only as an employee of this city, but also a resident of Ferndale, your support in Gay Pride Month and also raising of the flag means a lot to me. So I would just want you to know that on my almost 60 years in life, that coming out in my 20s, I've experienced all kinds of homophobic responses, even the polite ones. But nothing makes anything more different to anyone who happens to be a member of the LGBT community than to know that their allies do stand up for them. Because those suicides they're referring to are because they're not loved. They don't feel that love. They feel the rejection from whether it's their family members or from their religious sects. So we need to make sure that we stand up and protect all human, no matter who they are. So thank you so much for supporting me and my family, which is my LGBT members. So I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Next is going to be Dpw Director Dan Antos.
Good evening tonight, Mayor and Council. One important update is regarding the holiday next week. Since that does fall on a Monday, curbside waste and recycling pickup will be delayed one day. So if your trash day is typically on Monday, you'll be setting that out on Tuesday. And then if your typical day is Friday, you'll be setting out that for pickup on Saturday. So that pushes. And then the one thing I would like to acknowledge, last week was National Public Works Association Week, recognizing those employees. I would like to recognize 3 employees that were nominated amongst their peers within the department for displaying characteristics that are in line with the city's core values. Those employees were Andrea Boma, our CSR. She's really the one that runs everything in the department. You just see me at council meetings. Then Callum Harper, who is one of our laborers, and then Craig Miernick, who also retired last week from the city of Ferndale with 25 years. So just like to acknowledge those employees, thank them for the service to the city of Ferndale. So that's all I have tonight.
The chair. Dan, not this past weekend, the weekend before, we had the recycle program at City Hall here, and I just wondered what the turnout was, if you had any information about, was it better this year than last year? Have we seen it dwindling down, or?
It's always a popular event in Ferndale, and that goes for all the communities, especially after soccer kind of changed some of their operations and went to an appointment only. I would say this year was a typical year for us. We always have a really good turnout. I know that we basically filled every single one of the containers
That's good.
that we had, and thankfully had just enough room to contain everything that was dropped off. But we pretty much had a steady stream of cars from, what did we start at, 9
It was
to
there at
2.
9.
Yeah, 9 to 2. So got a lot of the household hazardous waste is usually the most popular. But the larger, Gaylord boxes like you would see watermelons in, we filled up, I think it was about 20 of those, in addition to some additional pallets that we stacked full of like old electronics, computer monitors, TVs, and stuff like that. We had a truckload of old tires, quite a few batteries and stuff like that that'll all go to a proper disposal, and like 3 dump truckloads of styrofoam. And the thing to remember is it is encouraged to make those appointments with SACRA. You can make those throughout the year, Saturdays included, to make sure we're recycling and disposing of those items that we can't put in our curbside container properly. So it was a good turnout.
Excellent. Thank you.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to just give a little follow-up on our open house event we had last Friday. I think we had an estimated between 100 and 150 people. A ton of children came out. I want to thank Michigan State Police, the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. I want to thank our DPW and Fire Department who came out and represented and helped us. I also want to acknowledge all the members of City Council that came out. Thank you for your support. And also our County Commissioner, Charlie Cavell, also came out, so we appreciate everybody coming out and showing their support. Gave away a lot of hot dogs and a lot of ice cream. We had a lot of happy kids running around. Proved a little difficult. They were a little hyper when they were touring the police department, but we managed to get through it. We may edit that part for next year.
Fully baby-proof it?
It was a challenge. I forgot what a 3-year-old hopped up on ice cream acts like. So I was reminded. But it was a good time. There was a lot of laughs and a lot of conversation with many of our residents. So it was, in my opinion, it was a success, and we look forward to expanding on it next year. Also, I wanted to bring up that the Fraternal Order Police, they give out one Peace Officer of the Year award each year, except for this year. They gave out 2 because we had 2 co-recipients for this award for the state of Michigan. Officer Ed Ungerman and Officer Nick Harding are recognized by the FOP. There's several nominations across the state were fielded by the FOP, and they selected our 2 fine officers as recipients of the Peace Officer of the Year award. So I'm very proud of our officers. It's a tremendous accomplishment. So I can't remember the last time that happened for a Ferndale police officer, but it's been some time, not in my career. So I thought it was worth acknowledging. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Through the chair. Chief, Mayor McClellan from Oak Park reached out to me regarding our gun buyback program we had a few years ago. And she asked me about some statistics and whether or not it was of value, was it popular. I was wondering if you could reach out to her. I don't have that information. You would know much better than I whether or not it would be beneficial. So if you could do that for me, I would appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. I'll reach out to Director Cooper myself.
Thank you. I'll let her know that you'll be in touch with her.
You bet.
Thank you.
Through the chair, that was the chief that needs no introduction, Chief Emmy, everybody. Chief Robinson, I happily introduce.
He's always a hard act to follow. That's why he wants to go in front of me. So I did want to share with council tonight that everybody's probably aware of the training I went through in Gaylord up north, and they actually did put out a request for help of tech rescue teams, and our Oakway Tech Rescue Team did get mobilized and responded. And one of our firefighters, Sergeant Michalak, responded as part of that team. So they deployed on Friday night, made it up to Gaylord about midnight. About 2 hours after they got there, reported the last missing female was found. So then they were able to demobilize and drive back. So it was a very long night. So when they got mobilized, they drove up, worked for about 2 hours, and then drove back and got back like 5, 6 a.m., so with no sleep. But I did want to let you know that our local resources did go and assist up north. I thought that was a great thing because of specialized training that we support. The other thing I want to add is, we're Ferndale Fire Department, we have our tents, we're identifiable at the community events and specialty events for a couple reasons. One, if somebody has emergency needs, we want to be easily identifiable so they can notify us so we can provide that assistance within the event. But while we're sitting there idle in between, because we hope we never have emergencies during events, we want to provide a service to our community. So this year we are going to have our mannequins out there, and we will be providing community CPR training at intervals throughout the day so people can come to the Ferndale Fire Department tent, learn hands-only CPR, and they will get a small gift for learning that valuable life-saving skill. So that would be something we will be adding to our community events this year for community outreach, and during the downtime, providing that valuable service. So look out, come see us and learn that skill.
Through the chair, I have a quick question. It came up in a local mom group, questions about the car seat installation program. So I'm hoping that you will fact check the information that I gave, which is that since not all departments provide this service, is it accessible to non-Ferndale residents?
The thing is, we want our kids safe. And, if somebody applies and fills out, if they don't live in Ferndale and they want to come, I'm not going to turn them away.
Okay.
They can apply on the website, schedule an appointment like anybody else, but if somebody needs it, we want to help people keep their children safe, and if they care enough to have it done, we're happy to provide the service.
Thank you.
All right, Mayor, I'll close this out. Just a reminder that City Hall and office hours are closed in observance of Memorial Day on Monday. This also means that we suspend parking enforcement in the downtown system on Memorial Day on Monday, so just a reminder, you can park, enjoy the parade, and stick around downtown, and there's no parking fees that day. I want to acknowledge the efforts of Claire Dion, our Zero Waste Coordinator. She was invited to present to the Michigan Recycling Coalition at their annual conference in Ann Arbor 2 weeks ago on her strategies and the city's strategies, specifically calling attention to the composting effort. It was so well received, she was invited to speak at the Michigan Municipal League's annual fall conference this fall, which is fantastic. So she'll be representing us as a speaker there. And my final update is just on the Facilities Task Force. This Wednesday, we'll be wrapping up our final group round of facility tours, of city facility tours. As these efforts conclude, the task force will go back into the classroom, so to speak, and we'll begin talking about prioritization and recommendations over the next 60 to 90 days for City Council on facilities. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Moving into call to council for council members. We'll start on this side. Councilman Mikulski. All right, I've seen a lot of head shaking over here.
I just want to say that, Mayor, I was very, very proud for you to stand up and say you weren't going to accept that paper tonight that was held, offered to be handed regarding that resolution that I think was just, I think it was almost just, sometimes I just can't believe where we've come kind of as a nation. As a community, because our community, one that I'm really proud of, is one that is inclusive. And for individuals to come and just I'm just upset, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. Let me just put it this way. I am in support of our populations here in Ferndale. That means our LGBT population, our African American population, our Native American population. I can go on and on and on. And I just am proud of this council for standing up for sticking to their convictions as far as inclusion and treating people with respect. And Mayor, for you to have done what you did tonight, I just had a whole lot of respect for you for that, and I'm just really grateful for that. I think that was just fabulous and wonderful of you, and and to our community, this is a council that supports all populations. So, like we've already always stuck firm with, that you're welcome here, and I just won't have it any other way personally, and that's the way I'm going to stick to it. So it was upsetting to me to hear, and I'm just proud to be part of this council and this community.
Thank you. It was upsetting for me to hear too. Councilman Polika.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two things. One, Jeannie Davis asked me to mention this to you, to council, and I assume staff as well, to invite you to their salad potluck on Wednesday, this Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Are you bringing the croutons?
Well, I think it's like pasta salads
Oh,
and that kind
okay.
of thing, so a variety of salads. You folks don't need to bring something. There's always enough food. But if you would like to attend, council is more than welcome to. And then the last thing that I do want to address is the folks that came tonight in protest of the flag. As an openly gay man, it has been my honor to sponsor the pride flag from the first year that I've been on council. And co-sponsor with Mayor Coulter the flag sitting here in city chambers. And I respect the fact that they have different views than I do, and they have as much right to speak about what they support and what they believe, and that's their choice. I was born gay. It wasn't something that I was, chose to be. I didn't. I wasn't indoctrinated. I didn't seek out becoming gay. It's who I am. It's part of me. Religion is a choice. No one's born with religious views. You learn them. You develop them. You can accept them. You can change religious views. I was raised Catholic. I consider myself a deist now. So, to me, the difference between supporting the gay community and supporting a religion and a religious view is something completely different. And for me, I will never sponsor flying a religious flag or symbol on government property. And that's my choice. And as an elected official, that's my prerogative. So I appreciate all of your support. I really do. I appreciate the support you have for our community. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to give a tour of downtown Ferndale this past Saturday to a group of women who were doing a women's retreat in Affirmations. They chose Affirmations, and they were Jewish women from the Temple Beth El, and I was so happy to tell them about Ferndale. But they wanted to know the history of the LGBTQ community, and I am so fortunate. I know some of the patriarchs of the LGBTQ movement in Ferndale who helped create space in our community for conversation and acceptance. And what I told them was, Even though we have a great Affirmations Community Center, LGBT Community Center, and that the city has supportive of anti-discrimination, and that we support our values of inclusiveness and welcoming, that city councils and residents can never let their guard down, can never stop advocating for change and support for the communities who are marginalized and have targeted discrimination against them. And I'm going to use the words of Mallory McMorrow, who's running for Senate, who I support. And it really is about hate won't win. And you need to stand up and always be on guard and protect what you love and support about your community. And it's about acceptance and counteracting hate, even if it's delivered kindly. You know, when I got sworn in for city council, there was oh no, now I'm going to forget the word. There was a small prayer said, invocation, thank you. And I got sort of eviscerated the first time I got elected, that there was a prayer in city council chambers and that there should be a separation of church and state. And we removed it. And, you know, there is a reason why there's a separation of church and state, not at the federal level and the state level, but it's also at the local level. So these are the things that we need to make sure that we stay on top of. This hate just percolating and festering in our nation. It's got me so angry. I go to bed at night going, what the hell is happening? And so I'm committed to you and to our community, making sure that we do whatever we can to make sure that we keep our residents feeling safe and welcome, and that we honor who we are, and that you belong here. The core of who I am as a human being, of just trying to be welcoming and acceptance. So I don't think in the next 12 months that it's going to get any easier. And so we all need to come together and stand up for what we believe in, of our nation, of everybody belonging and having the right to vote and having the right to live in your community without being attacked and discriminated against. So with that, I'm going to end on that and let you know that I also attended our backyard community art fair that was started by a former Ferndale resident who lives in Oak Park, but it was Oak Park, Ferndale. And it was, what I loved about it, they said it was a grassroots art fair, and I'm like, yes, grassroots. That is what knits a community together and keeps it together. Coming together, whether it's around art, and art comes in all forms. And I was just so enamored with our community in Oak Park and our residents who rode their bikes all over the community yesterday to go visit art and buy art, and just everybody chatting, and it was joyous. It was joyous, and I think we all need a little bit of joy in our lives. And I know what brings me great joy, and that is Ferndale Pride on June 4th, and I am going to be joyous with our LGBTQ community as an ally, and I hope everybody will come out and celebrate our awesome community with me and everybody else. And with that, I need to do some meditation before I go to bed tonight. And I'm calling this meeting. Thank you.